Hey guys, what's going on? It's Kevin from Lean Iron, and I wanted to shoot this video today to talk about overhead pressing and midsection development. So it's kind of undeniable that if you want to push heavy weights overhead, your midsection has to be stable enough to support the amount of, tension generated by that weight in that overhead position. And if you have weak abs or a weak core, you're not going to be able to hold that press in that overhead position. So you could just keep pressing heavy weights over and over and over again, and you will build that midsection strength over time and over reps. But if you want to focus on building stronger abs during your presses, there's a variation that you can use that I actually learned from David Willoughby, I believe the guy's name is, who was like a turn of the century strength writer. And he was talking about the guys that competed in Olympic weightlifting back then one of the events was just a strict barbell overhead press. That required a lot of midsection strength because these guys were pressing, hundreds and hundreds of pounds overhead. And so there's an exercise variation that they used called the seated press. Now, when I first read this, I thought about this seat, right? You'll see this at gyms all the time. You know, people take a seat on a bench, and whether with one kettlebell or two, or dumbbells, barbells, whatever, and they just kind of press like this. And I kind of thought about it and said, yeah, I guess it's maybe a slightly different variation. I didn't really understand what he meant by saying that it recruited your abdominals more, because the way that I thought about it, if I'm sitting on a bench, you actually probably have less need to stabilize with your midsection because the lever's shorter between your hips and your shoulders. What I didn't realize is he wasn't talking about this exercise. The exercise I'm going to show you guys is not seated on a bench, it's seated on the floor. I might have to tilt the camera down a little bit. Let's see. Just a tad. All right, there's a good shot of the floor. So instead of doing this on a bench or on a chair, try this. Actually take a seat on the floor. Now, when you sit in this position, all of a sudden pressing becomes much more difficult because you have to fight your torso's ability to want to lean back. So, I'll grab two kettlebells here. As I do the pressing variation, it becomes very apparent that you have to keep your abs very, very tight as you press. And especially as the weights get heavier, you'll notice every time that I try to push up, it wants to push me back. So I'm actively contracting my abs. The other reason that I like this exercise as opposed to sitting on a chair or on a bench is that it doesn't have a back to it. Without getting into this too much, when people sit in a chair with a back on it, they have a tendency to push back into the back of the bench or the chair. See a lot of traditional gyms. And they'll push into it to try to get a little more recruitment from their upper pecs during a press. The problem with that is you have a tendency to arch your back. You can do something called hyperextending your spine. You get a lot of irritation to the connective tissues and the discs in your spine. If you try to lean back during a seated overhead press, your abs are not going to let you do it. You have to keep very, very, very strong abs during this pressing variation. You won't be able to use as much weight, but the stabilizing effect on your midsection will be much stronger than if you just do a traditional standing variation. If you guys have any questions on this, please let me know in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. Have a good day, guys.